There is a moment when you finally see it. Your life is not stuck by accident. It is stuck by design. Not by fate or luck, but by the way your days are shaped, the way your mind is trained, and the way your energy is scattered. You say you want more focus, more growth, more results. But your reality is built by the structure you live in, not the wishes you carry inside. Progress is not luck. Progress is a decision, backed by structure. You know how it feels when every day starts to look the same. You wake up hoping something will change, but move through the hours without a clear plan, reacting to whatever arrives, chasing what seems urgent, answering everyone else's demands. You did a lot, yet you did not move forward. Not because you are weak, but because your effort had no path to follow. This audiobook is your reset, not a short burst of motivation, but a system you can build inside yourself. You will learn how to create a plan that gives your days direction, actions that train your focus, routines that stabilize your emotions, and habits that clear your mind. You will learn how to build trust in yourself, track your real progress, and correct the behaviors that quietly hold you back. On a scientific level, your brain and nervous system respond powerfully to structure. When you know what matters today, your mind stops burning energy on constant decisions, and your capacity for focus and self-control rises. On an energetic level, energy gathers where intention is clear. When you choose direction, your energy concentrates, and your actions finally begin to match the future you say you want. If you are tired of feeling scattered and starting over, this is your moment. Not tomorrow. Not when life gets easier. If you're ready to rise above the noise, like the video. It tells YouTube you're choosing awareness over autopilot. Subscribe now, and don't miss the next chapter in your evolution. And remember, the deepest transformation belongs to those who stay until the very end. Chapter 1. Build a plan that directs your energy. There is a quiet truth that rises in every person's life once they stop distracting themselves long enough to listen. You cannot go anywhere meaningful if you do not decide where you are going. A plan is not a luxury. A plan is the foundation of progress. Without it, your days blend together. Your effort becomes scattered. Your growth slows until you confuse movement with momentum and activity with advancement. You deserve more than scattered days and wasted potential. You deserve direction that strengthens you. When a person sits with themselves, without noise, without avoidance, without rushing, something honest appears. Every one of us wants to feel like our days move us forward. Every one of us wants to wake up with a sense of purpose, instead of an unspoken dread that another day will be lost to distractions, obligations, and uncertainty. That desire is not weakness. It is human nature. The mind thrives on clarity. The spirit thrives on intention. The body thrives on routine. When these three parts align, you stop surviving your life and start shaping it. Without a plan, nothing changes. Without a plan, your mind wakes up already overwhelmed because it has to decide everything from scratch. Without a plan, your energy becomes reactive, constantly responding, constantly adjusting, constantly chasing whatever arrives. This reactive state drains your nervous system. It sends stress signals through your body. It makes your thoughts feel scattered and your emotions unstable. Many people think they are tired because life is hard, but often they are tired because their inner world has no direction to follow. A plan is not pressure. A plan is alignment. It turns your day from a chaotic field of possibilities into a structured path of intention. When you create a plan, you are telling your mind, we are not wandering today. You are reducing the friction between who you want to be and what you repeatedly do. You are giving your inner world the clarity it has been craving but never received. The mind is a pattern-making machine. It needs a target to organize itself around. Neuroscience shows that when the mind sees a clear next step, the brain releases dopamine, increasing focus and motivation. Direction creates momentum. Momentum fuels confidence. Confidence shapes identity. This is why the simple act of planning is so powerful. It triggers a chain reaction that transforms your internal state long before the results appear externally. On a deeper, more spiritual level, your energy field responds to structure. When you drift, your energy becomes thin and dispersed. But when you choose direction, your energy condenses into purpose. You stop leaking power into distractions, doubts, and emotional noise. You start generating a steady internal frequency that influences how you think, how you act, and how you show up. This is why people with direction feel different. They walk differently. They speak differently. Their presence carries a silent steadiness because their inner world is organized, not chaotic. A plan also reshapes how you talk to yourself. Without direction, your inner voice becomes filled with uncertainty. I'll start later. I'll figure it out eventually. I'll change when things calm down. These phrases weaken your self-respect. They teach your mind that your words mean nothing. But when you create a plan and follow it, even in small ways, your inner voice shifts. You begin to speak to yourself with more strength, more clarity, more authority. You stop negotiating with your excuses and start moving with intention. This builds trust in yourself, one of the rarest and most powerful forms of personal strength. Most people do not fail because they lack skill. They fail because they do not trust themselves to follow through. A plan rebuilds that trust piece by piece. Every completed step becomes evidence. Every small win becomes proof. And proof rewires your identity faster than hope ever could. A plan also lightens emotional load. Think of how many times you have felt overwhelmed, not because the goal was too big, but because you didn't know where to start. Uncertainty creates emotional chaos, but clarity calms the system. When your mind knows exactly what to do next, it stops spinning. It stops worrying. It stops imagining worst-case scenarios. Instead, it focuses. A clear plan also reshapes your relationship with time. People constantly say they want more time, but they lose hours every day to distraction, confusion, hesitation, and disorganization. When you plan your day, you reclaim your time. You stop wasting it on things that drain you. You start investing it in things that build you. Time becomes purposeful instead of accidental. And when you use your time with intention, you feel proud of yourself. Pride does not come from luck. It comes from disciplined use of your hours. A plan strengthens discipline by removing guesswork. Discipline is not built through force. Discipline is built through clarity. When you know what matters, it becomes easier to act. When the path is simple, resistance decreases. The mind loves structure, and when structure exists, your discipline grows naturally. You stop fighting with yourself. You stop delaying. You stop feeling guilty for beginning late. You simply follow the direction you already gave yourself. A plan also protects you from emotional swings. When life feels aimless, small disruptions can ruin an entire day. But when you have direction, emotions lose their power to control you. You move forward anyway, not because you feel perfect, but because the path is clear. This creates emotional stability, something people spend years searching for, without realizing that daily structure is one of its strongest foundations. Most importantly, A plan helps you grow consistently. People often wait for big moments to transform their life, but real growth comes from steady, consistent action. A plan breaks your goals into simple steps that you can complete today. And when you complete today's steps, you move forward. When you move forward, momentum builds. When momentum builds, identity changes. You become someone reliable, someone capable, someone clear. A plan is not about controlling every hour. It is about directing your life. It is the first act of self-respect. The moment you declare that your time, your energy, and your future deserve structure. When you choose direction, your entire inner world begins to reorganize. Your thoughts sharpen, your emotions settle, your energy aligns, and your future opens in ways you never expected. Chapter 2. Create actions that train mental focus. There comes a point in your life when your mind begins to feel crowded. Thoughts jump from one idea to another. You try to sit down and work on something important, yet your attention slips away like water through open fingers. You remember tasks you forgot, messages you haven't replied to, responsibilities you need to handle. Your mind becomes restless, and when the mind is restless, progress becomes slow, inconsistent, and emotionally draining. Most people believe focus is something that appears automatically when needed. But focus is not a gift. Focus is not a personality trait. Focus is a trained skill, built through intentional action. Your mind listens to what you repeatedly do, not what you promise yourself. Anyone can say, "I need to focus more." But unless your actions train your attention, nothing changes. Focus grows through repeated practice, just like strength grows through repeated resistance. The modern world pulls your attention in 100 different directions. Notifications, conversations, endless content, digital noise. You are surrounded by stimuli designed to steal your attention. Your brain is not failing you. It is overwhelmed. To regain control, you must slow the world down, at least internally. You must create actions that center your mind, not scatter it. One of the simplest but most powerful actions is choosing one priority at a time. Not 5 tasks, not 3. 1. When you give your full attention to a single task for a set amount of time, you train your mind to remain steady. Of course it will wander, that is natural. But every time you bring it back, you strengthen the neural pathways responsible for focus. You are literally rewiring your brain to obey your intention. This repeated return to the present moment builds mental discipline. It teaches your mind that your goals, not your impulses, decide how you act. Imagine your attention like a beam of light. Scattered, it is weak. Concentrated, it becomes powerful enough to cut through what once felt impossible. Focus improves when the mind is not overwhelmed. Many people try to hold too many responsibilities in their head at once, but the brain has limits. When you reduce the number of decisions you must make, your mind becomes clearer. Creating small systems, such as setting specific times for work, rest, movement, or reflection, frees your mind from constant internal negotiation. Structure protects your attention. It removes the internal chaos that steals hours from your day. On a scientific level, the brain responds strongly to routine. When you consistently perform focused work at the same time each day, your nervous system begins to prepare itself for deep attention before you even begin. This is why certain people can enter flow states more easily. They have trained their mind to work with them, not against them. Focus is not random. It is conditioned. Another essential action is creating boundaries around your attention. When you sit down to do something meaningful, you must protect that time. No sudden scrolling, no jumping between apps, No switching tasks because something feels easier. Every time you protect your attention, you teach your mind that your intentions matter. You build an internal seriousness that translates into stronger discipline and clearer thought. Focus also improves when you understand your own distractions. Every person has triggers that break concentration. Some emotional, some mental, some physical. When you pause and observe what pulls you away, boredom, self-doubt, discomfort, or the desire for instant gratification, you gain power. Awareness lets you respond with action rather than reaction. You can breathe. You can recenter. You can calmly return your attention to what matters. This is not just psychological, it is energetic. When you are fully present, your energy condenses. It becomes sharper, stronger, more coherent. When you are unfocused, your energy becomes thin and dispersed. Presence is not just a mental state, it is an energetic alignment. When you are truly here, your mind and energy work as one. Training focus also requires practicing full presence. When you write, be with the writing. When you learn, be with the learning. When you listen, be with the person in front of you. Your life becomes deeper and your mind becomes quieter when you meet each moment fully instead of rushing ahead to the next thing. Presence sharpens perception. It improves memory. It strengthens clarity. It turns simple actions into meaningful progress. Repetition is one of your greatest tools. When you consistently practice short periods of focused work, your brain adapts. Attention becomes easier. You build mental stamina the same way athletes build physical stamina, through deliberate, repeated effort. Even 10 minutes of real focus a day creates long-term development if practiced consistently. Your mind grows from commitment, not intensity. Your environment matters too. A cluttered space leads to a cluttered mind. When your surroundings are organized, your attention flows more freely. Clean spaces create psychological safety. Safety reduces distraction. This is why clearing your desk, preparing your tools, or removing unnecessary objects contributes directly to your ability to focus. Your environment sends signals to your brain about what kind of mental state to generate. It is also important to understand your natural rhythm. The brain has cycles, periods of high alertness and periods of mental fatigue. When you pay attention to these natural waves, you can schedule your most important work during your strongest moments. This allows you to use your mind efficiently instead of fighting against your own biology. Another essential part of training focus is developing patience. Many people abandon tasks the moment they feel bored or uncomfortable. But discomfort is not a sign to stop. It is the doorway to expanded mental stamina. When you push gently through boredom or resistance, you are training your mind to remain steady even when it wants to escape. This creates deeper concentration and stronger internal resilience. Rest is also part of focus training. A tired mind cannot sustain attention. Short breaks, deep breaths, or stepping away for a moment refreshes your system. Rest is not weakness, it is maintenance. A well-rested mind focuses naturally. The most powerful action of all is choosing to be intentional with your attention. When you decide that your mind belongs to you and not to external noise, everything changes. You stop living on autopilot. You stop drowning in distractions. You begin shaping your experience instead of reacting to everything around you. Focus is freedom. When you train your attention, you unlock the ability to think clearly, act decisively, and move through life with purpose. You become more effective, more confident, more aware of your strength. Focus is not something you find, it is something you build, and when you build it, the world inside you becomes quiet enough for your true potential to finally speak. Chapter 3. Define goals that evolve your identity. There comes a moment in your life when you realize you have been moving, but not necessarily evolving. Tasks get completed, responsibilities get handled, days pass, but something inside you remains unchanged, untouched by your own effort. That feeling is not failure. It is a signal, a sign that your growth no longer needs activity. It needs intention. It needs direction. It needs a destination strong enough to shape who you become, not just what you do. A goal is not simply something you want. A real goal is something that demands a different version of you. It challenges your patterns. It stretches your behaviors. It confronts your limitations. It asks you to rise. And the moment you choose a goal that requires growth, not comfort, you initiate an internal shift that becomes visible in your energy, your habits, and your identity. The first step in defining meaningful goals is honesty. Not the polite honesty you offer others, but the raw honesty you rarely give yourself. You ask, what do I truly want? What part of my life feels unfinished? What version of me have I been avoiding? Which abilities have I left unused? These questions are not for judgment. They are for clarity. When you answer them truthfully, you cut through the noise of expectations, pressures, and past beliefs. You stop choosing goals that sound good or look impressive. Instead, you choose goals that speak directly to your evolution. A meaningful goal is not supposed to feel comfortable. Comfort protects the past. Growth protects the future. When a goal feels slightly intimidating, when it requires effort beyond your current routine, that is the right direction. This tension you feel is not resistance. It is expansion. It is your mind stretching into new territory. It is your identity preparing to evolve. To define the right goals, you must also think about the person you want to become. Goals are inner architects. A person who chooses a health goal becomes someone who respects their body. A person who chooses a communication goal becomes someone who speaks with clarity and listens with presence. A person who chooses a financial discipline goal becomes someone who directs their resources with intention instead of impulse. Every goal shapes identity, whether you realize it or not. This is why your goals must align with your desired character, not your temporary emotions. When your goals reflect your deeper values, you feel more connected to the process. You feel more committed. You feel a sense of meaning behind the discomfort. Purpose turns effort into devotion. Without purpose, even small challenges feel heavy. With purpose, even big challenges feel meaningful. Another essential part of defining growth-centered goals is giving them multidimensional depth. Growth is not one-sided. It involves your emotional strength, mental clarity, physical state, discipline, self-awareness, and confidence. When your goals touch different layers of your life, your growth becomes balanced. You stop improving only one area while neglecting others. You become a more whole, more grounded, more aligned version of yourself. Your goals should also be specific enough to guide you, but flexible enough to adapt. Life changes. Circumstances shift. Your energy levels fluctuate. A rigid goal breaks under pressure. A flexible goal bends and continues. Flexibility prevents frustration. It keeps you moving forward even when the original plan needs adjustment. Growth is not linear. Your goals must respect that. To define the right goals, you must also confront your weaknesses, not to criticize yourself, but to understand what needs strengthening. Weaknesses such as procrastination, self-doubt, impatience, or fear are not personal flaws. They are untrained parts of you. When a goal requires you to face these patterns, you build not just progress, but character. You develop courage. You develop discipline. You develop resilience. At the same time, your goals must also honor your strengths. Growth is not only about fixing what's broken, it is about expanding what is powerful. When you choose goals that use your natural talents, creativity, strategy, communication, empathy, you build confidence faster. Your strengths become momentum generators that carry you through difficult moments. A clear goal also requires clarity of action. Saying you want to be better means nothing to your mind. Your brain needs specifics. Your energy needs direction. When you define exactly what the goal is and what actions express it, your entire inner world aligns with it. Clarity reduces resistance. Ambiguity creates confusion. Accountability is another part of defining powerful goals. You must be responsible for your direction, not blaming life, luck, or timing, not waiting for permission or perfect circumstances. Accountability is the quiet declaration that your future is shaped by your decisions. It turns you from a reactor into a creator. When defining goals, consider long-term value. Some goals give quick satisfaction, but no lasting transformation. Others build habits, mindset shifts, and strengths you carry for years. Choose goals that improve the person you are becoming, not just the moment you are living. Long-term goals create long-term identity. Your goals should also inspire you. Inspiration is fuel. When a goal lights something inside you, excitement, curiosity, even fear, that intensity becomes energy. You feel alive moving toward it. You feel proud when you take steps. You feel connected to your future instead of stuck in your past. Inspiration is not a luxury. It's a requirement for transformation. Defining goals that evolve your identity also means releasing old stories. Many people carry beliefs that limit them long after those beliefs should have expired. I'm not disciplined enough. I'm not ready. I'm not capable. These stories are not truth. They are habits. When you choose a goal that demands a new identity, you break the old story. You rewrite your internal script. You expand your self-concept. Growth-centered goals also teach patience. True improvement is slow, steady, and subtle. You may not see changes every day, but you feel them. You feel your mind becoming clearer. You feel your discipline becoming stronger. You feel your energy becoming more stable. Patience is not passive. It is powerful. It is the ability to continue even when the results are quiet. When you define goals that push your personal growth, you give your life shape. You give your days meaning. You give your mind direction. You stop drifting through life and start directing it. Goals are more than dreams. They are commitments. They are declarations. They are blueprints. And when you choose goals that evolve your identity, you step into a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, more prepared, and more aligned with the future you desire. Chapter 4. Build routines that regulate your emotional state. There comes a time when a person realizes that emotions, more than circumstances, more than talent, more than motivation, determine the quality of their life. Emotions shape how you react, how you speak, how you treat yourself, how you handle challenges, and how you follow through on your intentions. Even the strongest goals collapse when your emotions are unstable. Even the clearest plans get ignored when your emotional landscape is chaotic. Emotional discipline is not about suppressing feelings. It is about guiding them in a direction that supports your growth instead of blocking it. One of the most powerful ways to build emotional discipline is through routines. A routine may look simple on the outside, but internally, it is a stabilizing structure for your nervous system. When your day has a predictable rhythm, your emotions have fewer opportunities to hijack your behavior. You know what you are doing. You know why you are doing it. You know what comes next. This predictability reduces unnecessary stress and brings your inner world into balance. The moment you begin structuring your day, even in small ways, you begin structuring your emotions. The actions you repeat each morning, each afternoon, each evening send signals to your mind. They tell it how to respond. They tell it when to focus, when to relax, when to work, when to slow down. Emotional strength grows when your inner world feels anchored, and routines provide exactly that anchor. Starting a routine does not require complicated rituals. You do not need elaborate systems or perfect discipline. You need simple, steady actions. Small behaviors practiced consistently create powerful emotional stability. Something as simple as taking one quiet minute before speaking to anyone can organize your thoughts. A short walk in the morning can help your energy settle. Setting aside a few minutes to review your intentions for the day can sharpen your clarity. These tiny rituals send your mind a message. We are grounded. We are prepared. We are moving with intention. Emotional discipline improves dramatically when you reduce the chaos in your day. When everything feels unpredictable, your emotions react instantly. You become easily irritated, easily overwhelmed, easily discouraged. Predictability is not boring. It is soothing. It calms the nervous system. It helps your mind stop jumping from concern to concern. A routine lowers the amount of emotional noise you carry, giving you more space to think clearly and respond wisely. Routines also help you recognize emotional patterns. When your day is structured, you begin noticing when certain feelings arise. Maybe you feel anxious in the morning, restless in the afternoon, or discouraged at night. When your emotional patterns become visible, you gain power. You can intervene early. You can take a breath before reacting. You can adjust your behavior. You can respond with intention rather than being carried away by temporary emotion. This self-awareness is the foundation of emotional maturity. Routines also protect your well-being. Emotional discipline weakens when your body is exhausted, your mind is scattered, or your needs are ignored. A tired mind is reactive. A neglected body is heavy. A rushed day is chaotic. But when you integrate routines that care for your well-being, rest, nourishment, movement, reflection, you strengthen your emotional resilience. You think more clearly. You respond more calmly. You recover from stress more quickly. Self-care is not indulgence. It is maintenance. And maintenance is discipline. Part of emotional discipline is learning to separate impulse from intention. Routines teach this distinction. When you commit to doing something daily, even when you do not feel like it, you train yourself to act based on choice rather than emotion. This builds an inner voice that grows stronger over time. A voice that says, I can follow through. I can be steady. I can act with wisdom. This internal stability protects you during emotionally heavy days. Reflection is another routine that strengthens emotional discipline. Reflection is not overthinking. It is understanding. When you take a few minutes to observe how you acted and reacted, you learn about yourself. You see patterns. You see triggers. You see moments you could have handled differently. This builds emotional intelligence. You stop reacting blindly and start responding intentionally. Routines also help you build emotional patience. Life will not always move at your pace. Plans will change. People will disappoint you. Delays will arise. Without emotional discipline, these disruptions can ruin your day. But when your routines keep you grounded, you learn to pause before responding. You learn to breathe before speaking. You learn to wait without collapsing into frustration. Emotional patience is not natural. It is practiced. It grows from consistency. Checking in with yourself throughout the day is another powerful routine. Many people carry tension without noticing it. They tighten their shoulders, stiffen their jaw, and rush through tasks. This invisible tension builds until it becomes emotional overflow. A simple 10-second check-in. How am I feeling? Where is my tension? What do I need right now? Can prevent emotional buildup and keep you balanced. Ending your day with a closing routine is transformative. When you intentionally finish your day, you do not carry unnecessary emotional weight into tomorrow. You acknowledge what went well. You accept what did not. You forgive yourself for mistakes. You release the tension stored in your body. This closure creates emotional reset, allowing you to begin the next day with clarity instead of leftover frustration. Routines also protect you from emotional drains. Negative conversations, unnecessary arguments, or constant exposure to noise can destabilize your inner world. When you create boundaries around these things, limiting them, avoiding them, or replacing them, you protect your emotional energy. You cannot grow if everything around you is pulling you off balance. Another powerful routine is practicing neutral responses. Not everything requires intensity. Not everything requires a reaction. When you begin responding to life with calm acknowledgement instead of emotional spikes, your inner world becomes steadier. Neutrality is not indifference. It is maturity. It prevents chaos. It keeps your emotional energy from being wasted on things that do not matter. Finally, routines build internal trust. Every day you follow your routine, you reinforce the belief that you are stable, reliable, and capable of guiding your life. You prove to yourself that you can manage your emotions instead of being controlled by them. This trust becomes emotional armor. It strengthens your identity. It gives you confidence. Emotional discipline is not built in a single moment. It is built through small, steady routines repeated daily. When your routines support your emotional stability, your entire life becomes easier. Your goals become more achievable. Your focus becomes stronger. Your relationships become healthier. Your confidence becomes deeper. Emotional stability is not a gift. It is a practice. And when your emotions work with you instead of against you, you move through life with clarity, strength, and inner peace. Chapter 5. Choose habits that sharpen internal clarity. There comes a point in every person's life when the noise inside becomes louder than anything happening outside. Thoughts overlap. Worries pile up. Decisions feel heavier than they should. You feel mentally clouded, emotionally stretched, and spiritually disconnected. This inner noise is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that clarity is missing. And clarity does not magically appear. Clarity is created. It is built through daily habits that clean your internal space and elevate your awareness. Internal clarity begins with the habit of paying attention to your thoughts. Most people move through their day without ever checking in with themselves. They suppress emotions, ignore discomfort, and carry stress without understanding what it means. But the mind is constantly speaking. Your thoughts are signals, messages pointing to what needs attention, healing, adjustment, or release. When you begin observing your thoughts instead of drowning in them, you gain insight into the patterns that shape your behavior. Awareness is the first gateway to clarity. It helps you distinguish between real problems and imagined fears, between intuitive signals and emotional noise, between truth and old conditioning. When you see your thoughts clearly, They lose their power to overwhelm you. They become information, not identity. Another powerful habit that sharpens clarity is simplifying your mental load. The mind can only carry so many open loops, unfinished tasks, unresolved conversations, unmade decisions, before it becomes overloaded. Mental clutter leads to emotional heaviness. Emotional heaviness leads to procrastination. Procrastination leads to self-doubt. It becomes a cycle. Reducing unnecessary commitments, writing tasks down, and clearing your schedule of what does not matter gives your mind room to breathe. Simplicity is not laziness. It is strategy. When you remove what drains you, you amplify what strengthens you. A simple morning ritual, a clear list of priorities, a few intentional habits. These small structures create enormous internal space. Reflection is another clarity-building habit. Reflection is not dwelling. Reflection is understanding. When you take a few minutes each day to observe your choices, reactions, and emotions, you begin noticing patterns you were once blind to. You see what triggers you. You see what motivates you. You see what drains you. You see what aligns with who you want to become. Reflection builds insight. Insight builds wisdom. Wisdom builds clarity. Moments of quiet are essential for clarity. Many people fear silence because silence reveals the truth. But silence is where your real mind begins to speak. A brief pause before responding. A quiet moment before starting your day. A few slow breaths during overwhelm. These small moments recalibrate your internal energy. They bring your awareness back to the present moment. They reduce mental noise. Clarity grows in stillness. Being fully present is another habit that sharpens clarity. When you are present, your mind stops time traveling between the past and the future. It stops replaying old fears and predicting future disasters. Presence pulls you back into the only moment that is real. When you give your full attention to one task, one conversation, one experience, your thoughts become organized. Your mind becomes calmer. Your perception sharpens. Presence reduces internal confusion. Clarity also deepens when you clear emotional clutter. Emotional clutter comes from carrying unresolved feelings, resentment, guilt, fear, disappointment, that sit quietly beneath the surface of your day. When you acknowledge these emotions instead of suppressing them, you release weight you didn't know you were carrying. Emotional openness is not weakness, it is cleansing. It keeps your inner world clear and uncluttered. Your physical environment affects your internal clarity as well. A cluttered space often leads to a cluttered mind. Cleaning your surroundings is not a superficial habit. It is psychological architecture. It signals safety to the nervous system. It creates a sense of control. It reduces visual noise. When your space is orderly, your mind follows. This is why a clean desk, a tidy room, or an organized environment instantly improves mental clarity. Another crucial habit is prioritizing sleep. A tired mind cannot think clearly. Exhaustion magnifies problems, distorts perception, and amplifies emotional reactions. Sleep restores the brain. It regulates your emotions. It sharpens your cognitive function. If you want internal clarity, prioritize rest like you prioritize goals. A rested mind sees reality accurately. Healthy boundaries are another form of internal clarity. When you protect your time, your energy, and your emotional space, you reduce confusion. You stop allowing other people's chaos to spill into your life. You stop saying yes to things that drain you. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They keep your internal world clean. Mindful communication also contributes to clarity. When you express yourself honestly and listen fully, misunderstandings decrease. Hidden tension dissolves. Your relationships become lighter. Clear communication keeps your emotional energy organized, which keeps your mind clear. Intentional learning sharpens clarity as well. When you feed your mind with meaningful information, books, conversations, ideas, you expand your awareness. You see life from a higher perspective. You recognize solutions you overlooked before. Knowledge clarifies confusion. Understanding dissolves fear. Gratitude is another clarity-building habit. Gratitude is not about ignoring problems. It is about shifting focus. When you consciously acknowledge what is going well, your mind stops magnifying what is missing. Gratitude brings balance to your emotional landscape. It reduces anxiety. It pulls you out of negativity loops. A grateful mind sees possibilities instead of limitations. Routine stability supports clarity. When your days have rhythm, your emotions become stable. And when your emotions are stable, your thoughts become clear. Routine is not about control. It is about support. It helps your mind settle into predictable patterns that reduce mental noise. Focusing on what you can control is one of the highest forms of clarity. Many people waste mental energy worrying about things outside their influence. This creates confusion and frustration. But when you choose to focus on actions you can take, what you can choose, improve, or direct, your mind becomes sharper. You stop wasting energy on the impossible. You gain clarity through empowerment. Developing internal clarity is ultimately about choosing habits that help you understand yourself more deeply. It is about creating patterns that support your mental balance. It is about removing behaviors that cloud your judgment. These habits take time to develop, but each one adds another layer of clarity to your life. And with clarity comes peace. With clarity comes better decisions. With clarity comes direction. When you choose habits that improve your internal clarity, you choose to live consciously, purposefully, and powerfully. Chapter 6. Take steps that build trust in yourself. Every person reaches a turning point, a moment when they understand that self-trust is the foundation of every meaningful change they will ever create. You can have plans, routines, goals, and ideas, but without trust in your own ability to follow through, nothing moves. Self-trust is not built through positive thinking or motivational words. It is built through action, repeated, consistent action that teaches your mind, I can rely on myself. Many people walk through life with a quiet sense of doubt, not because they have failed, but because they have made small promises to themselves and broken them again and again. Each time you say, I'll start tomorrow, and don't. Each time you commit to something and abandon it. Each time you delay what matters, your mind remembers. Self-trust weakens not from one big mistake, but from the repeated erosion of small commitments. But the opposite is also true. The moment you take even one small step toward what you said you would do, your mind recognizes it. That recognition is powerful. It becomes the first brick in a foundation of trust that strengthens with every action that follows. Self-trust grows not from perfection, but from presence, not from grand achievements, but from simple consistency. A powerful way to build trust is to follow through on small tasks. People underestimate the impact of completing something tiny. Cleaning a corner, sending a message you've been avoiding, finishing a short assignment, waking up on time. These moments reinforce an internal truth. When I say I will do something, I do it. This identity shift is one of the most valuable internal transformations you will ever experience. Each completed step becomes evidence. Evidence becomes belief. Belief becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. Trust also grows when you face discomfort rather than escape it. Avoidance weakens trust. When you avoid difficult tasks because they feel heavy or unfamiliar, your mind interprets that avoidance as incapability. But when you take action, even small action, towards something uncomfortable, your mind learns that pressure does not break you. That discomfort does not define you. That fear does not control you. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act with fear in the room. These moments of inner courage shape your self-perception. They strengthen your emotional backbone. They prove that you can handle more than your mind previously believed. Another essential step in building self-trust is honoring your boundaries. When you constantly let others push you beyond your limits, you teach yourself that your needs do not matter. This weakens your internal respect. But when you protect your energy, by saying no, by setting limits, by prioritizing what truly matters, you send yourself a clear message. I matter. My well-being matters. My path matters. Boundaries are not walls. They are self-protection. They are acts of internal leadership. Self-trust also grows through private victories, the accomplishments no one sees, no one praises, no one knows about. When you do the right thing without needing validation, when you stay disciplined without anyone watching, when you choose integrity in silence, your character deepens. These private wins shape the version of you that you carry into the world. They build a quiet confidence that cannot be shaken by external criticism or temporary setbacks. Another crucial step is owning your mistakes with honesty. People often destroy their self-trust, not because they failed, but because they refuse to face the failure. Avoidance creates shame. Shame creates fragmentation. But when you acknowledge your mistakes and take responsibility, you build integrity. You show yourself that you can be honest, even when it is uncomfortable. Mistakes do not damage self-trust. Dishonesty does. Correction strengthens it. Consistency is also central to self-trust. Not flawless consistency, but steady commitment. Many people give up at the first sign of slow progress because they confuse slowness with failure. But self-trust grows from staying with the process, even when results are not dramatic. When you show up again and again, through quiet seasons, through uninspired moments, through emotional turbulence, you prove to yourself that you can be relied on. Consistency builds internal safety. It creates a sense of inner stability that becomes the foundation of all growth. Taking steps that align with your values is another form of self-trust. When your actions contradict your values, you feel disconnected and fragmented. You lose trust in your own judgment. But when your behavior matches what you truly believe, you feel congruent, aligned, grounded. Values-based decisions strengthen your identity because they come from the deepest parts of you. Celebrating your progress is also critical. People who never acknowledge their own growth train their minds to believe their effort has no value. This weakens motivation. When you take moments, small moments, to recognize your improvement, you reinforce the link between effort and reward. Appreciation is fuel. It keeps you moving. Another vital piece of self-trust is releasing comparison. When you measure your progress against someone else's timeline, you create unnecessary doubt. But when you allow yourself to move at your own pace, you build a relationship with yourself that is patient, steady, and safe. You stop rushing. You stop forcing. You grow naturally, not anxiously. Self-trust also deepens when you take responsibility for your direction. When you blame circumstances, people, or the past, you give away your power. But when you claim ownership, my choices shape my life, you become stronger. Ownership creates empowerment. Empowerment creates trust. You become the leader of your life, rather than a follower of circumstance. Another step that builds trust is practicing discipline in areas that matter to your long-term growth. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is love in action. It is choosing what supports your future over what comforts your present. When you remain disciplined, not perfectly but repeatedly, you build internal order. You create stability. You develop a sense of reliability that becomes unshakable. And finally, growth builds trust. When you learn, improve, and challenge your thinking, you show yourself that you are evolving. Change becomes proof of capability. Learning expands your inner world. It shifts your identity from limitation to possibility. Every step you take to build self-trust shapes who you are becoming. It transforms you from someone who doubts to someone who leads, someone who hesitates to someone who acts, someone who questions their own strength to someone who stands firmly in it. When you trust yourself, you become unstoppable. Not because life becomes easy, but because your inner world becomes reliable, steady, and strong. Chapter 7. Track progress that shows your real effort. There comes a stage in your personal evolution when you understand that effort alone is not enough. You can work hard. You can stay disciplined. You can show up every day. But if you cannot see your progress, your mind begins to doubt the journey. Doubt does not come from lack of ability. It comes from lack of evidence. The human brain needs proof. It needs something measurable, something visible, something that confirms, I am moving forward. This is why tracking your progress is one of the most powerful habits you can build. When you track your actions, even in the simplest way, you show your mind the truth, not the emotional story, not the fear-based narrative, not the impatience that whispers, you're not improving. You show your mind facts, and facts are the antidote to doubt. Most people underestimate how memory works. Memory is emotional, not objective. It focuses on what you missed rather than what you completed. It highlights where you struggled instead of where you succeeded. It remembers your imperfections far more vividly than your progress. This is why so many people feel like they are standing still, even when they are growing. Their memory is biased. Their mind is not seeing the full picture. Tracking progress removes the emotional filter. It reveals reality. When you write down what you actually did, your workouts, your tasks, your hours of focus, your habits, your steps toward your goals, you gain clarity. Not imagined progress, not exaggerated failure, clarity. And clarity strengthens perseverance. One of the greatest benefits of tracking your progress is that it breaks your goals into visible milestones. When everything stays in your head, your goals feel distant and overwhelming. But when you record daily or weekly actions, you create a map. Each completed action becomes a marker on the path, a reminder that you are not stuck. You are advancing. Progress becomes something you can see, something you can measure, something you can trust. Tracking also reveals patterns you would never notice on your own. You begin to understand how you naturally operate, what days you perform well, what situations drain you, which habits support you, which behaviors sabotage you. You see when your motivation drops. You see when your consistency rises. Patterns become visible, and once you see a pattern, you can improve it. This is not just psychological, it's neurological. The brain thrives on feedback loops. When you track your progress, you create a loop that strengthens motivation. The simple act of checking off a box or writing down a completed task sends a dopamine signal through your brain. This reinforces your behavior. It makes you want to continue. It builds momentum through chemistry, not just willpower. Tracking also builds discipline. When you record your actions, you become accountable to yourself. You can no longer lie to yourself about what you did or did not do. This honesty can feel uncomfortable at first, but it is transformative. Internal accountability is one of the strongest forms of discipline you will ever develop. You stop relying on external pressure to grow. You begin guiding yourself. Tracking your progress also helps you celebrate accomplishments you once ignored. Many people move from one task to the next without acknowledging anything. This creates emptiness. It makes you feel like no matter how much you do, it's never enough. But when you track what you've completed, you see your own effort. You recognize your growth. You feel proud, not from ego, but from evidence. Pride builds momentum. Momentum builds consistency. Another powerful effect of tracking is that it reduces overwhelm. When a goal feels large, the mind perceives it as a threat. This triggers anxiety. But when you break the goal into small daily actions and track each one, you turn the impossible into the manageable. Each completed step reduces emotional weight. Your mind relaxes because the path is clear. Overwhelm becomes organization. Chaos becomes structure. Tracking progress also teaches you honesty. When you write down what you truly did, without exaggeration, without excuses, you see yourself clearly. If you avoided tasks, the page will show it. If you followed through, the page will show it. This level of truth builds maturity. You stop justifying your behavior. You start adjusting it. When you track consistently, you also improve your relationship with time. Time stops feeling like something that disappears without meaning. Instead, time becomes measurable. You begin to understand where your hours go. You become more intentional. You stop wasting time on things that weaken you. You start directing time like someone who values their life. Tracking also helps you stay committed long enough to see results. Most people quit too early because they think nothing is happening. But progress is often invisible in the moment. Growth is silent. Change accumulates slowly. Tracking makes that accumulation visible. You look back and realize you're not the same person you were last week, last month, last year. This realization deepens your endurance. A major benefit of tracking is early correction. When you see that your effort has declined or certain behaviors repeat, you can adjust immediately, before the problem grows. Most people wait until they feel lost or overwhelmed before they try to fix things. But tracking lets you intervene early. This protects your momentum and keeps you moving forward. Tracking progress also stabilizes your emotions. When your mind sees evidence of improvement, it becomes calmer. It starts trusting the process. It stops demanding immediate results. Emotional stability grows because you no longer rely on feeling progress. You can see it. You become patient. You become steady. You become grounded. The purpose of tracking your progress is not to judge yourself. It is to understand yourself. Some days will be excellent. Some days will be slow. That is part of growth. Tracking teaches you fairness. Fairness toward yourself. Fairness toward your effort. Fairness toward your journey. Over time, tracking shapes your identity. You stop viewing yourself as someone who merely tries. You become someone who grows. Someone who is consistent. Someone who is committed. Your self-image shifts because your actions no longer disappear into memory. They live on paper, on charts, in logs, in visible proof. And people always act according to the identity they believe in. When you see yourself as someone who progresses, you behave like someone who progresses. You act with confidence. You continue even when results are small. You trust your direction. Tracking your progress is not a small habit. It is a transformational practice. It reveals truth. It strengthens discipline. It builds identity. It guides your decisions. And it reminds you that every action, no matter how small, counts in the creation of your future. Chapter 8. Correct behaviors that block your daily progress. Every person eventually confronts an uncomfortable truth. Progress is not only built by what you add to your life, new habits, new goals, new routines. Progress is also built by what you remove. Hidden behaviors, silent patterns, and subtle habits can drain your momentum without you realizing why. These behaviors may seem harmless because they are familiar, but familiarity does not make them helpful. Until you identify and correct these patterns, your growth will always feel heavier than it needs to be. The first step in correcting unhelpful behavior is awareness. Most people repeat the same reactions, thoughts, and choices because they are not paying attention. They operate on autopilot. They follow old scripts written by past versions of themselves. They don't pause long enough to ask why they are doing what they are doing. Awareness interrupts the automatic. It forces you to see your behavior clearly. And once you see something clearly, you can change it. One of the most common behaviors that blocks progress is avoidance. Avoidance shows up in small ways: delaying a task, ignoring a message, postponing a decision you know you must make. Avoidance feels comfortable in the moment, but it creates long-term heaviness. The mind always knows when something is left undone. It keeps returning to it. It drains your attention, your energy, and your emotional clarity. Correcting avoidance requires action. Even a small step is enough. Once you begin, the emotional weight decreases instantly. Action dissolves fear. Another growth-blocking behavior is overthinking. Overthinking gives you the illusion of productivity while producing nothing. It amplifies fear, exaggerates risk, and convinces you that you need more time or more certainty. But clarity comes from action, not analysis. The mind tries to protect you from discomfort by hesitating, but hesitation only increases anxiety. Correcting overthinking means setting limits. Decide how long you will think, gather the essentials, and then move. Movement calms the mind. Movement breaks the mental loop. A behavior that often goes unnoticed is self-criticism. Many people speak to themselves with a harshness they would never use on someone they care about. They magnify mistakes. They diminish progress. They judge themselves without mercy. This mental pattern destroys motivation. It creates emotional instability. It erodes self-trust. Correcting this behavior does not mean giving yourself empty praise. It means practicing balanced truth. Acknowledge mistakes without attacking yourself. Speak to yourself with the tone of someone who wants you to grow, not someone who wants you to shrink. Another behavior that blocks daily progress is inconsistency, starting with enthusiasm and disappearing when momentum dips. Promising yourself change, but abandoning the process when it becomes inconvenient. Inconsistency confuses your mind. It weakens your identity. When you stop showing up for yourself, you unconsciously begin to believe that you cannot rely on your own word. Correcting inconsistency requires reducing the size of your tasks. Go smaller. Go simpler. Go daily. Consistency is not created by intensity. It is created by repetition. Saying yes to everything is another silent progress killer. When you accept every request, every invitation, every responsibility others place on you, you sacrifice your own direction. Your time becomes fragmented. Your energy becomes diluted. Correcting this behavior means learning to say no without guilt. Boundaries are not selfish. They are survival. They protect your time, your clarity, and your future. Impatience is another behavior that slows growth. Many people expect rapid results. When change does not happen immediately, they feel defeated. They quit. But impatience is a misunderstanding of how transformation actually works. Real progress is slow, deep, and steady. It builds internally before it becomes visible externally. Correcting impatience means embracing the rhythm of growth. Continue even when the results are quiet. Stay committed long enough to see your effort turn into outcomes. Comparison also blocks progress. Comparing your journey to someone else's timeline creates insecurity and distraction. You stop looking at your own path and begin evaluating your worth through the lens of someone else's progress. This is unfair to yourself. No two people have the same starting point, the same strengths, the same lessons, or the same timing. Correcting comparison means redirecting your attention inward. Measure your life against who you were yesterday, not against someone else's highlight reel. Another behavior that weakens progress is procrastination. Procrastination is not laziness. It is emotional resistance. The task feels heavy. Your mind wants relief, so it delays. But delaying creates more resistance, more guilt, more pressure. Correcting procrastination means breaking the task into the smallest possible action and starting immediately. Once you start, your emotional resistance collapses. Momentum replaces hesitation. A deeply limiting behavior is overloading your schedule. People often confuse busyness with productivity. They fill their days with tasks to feel accomplished, but those tasks lead nowhere. Overloaded schedules create burnout, not growth. Correcting this means simplifying your commitments. Focus on fewer tasks and execute them deeply. Depth creates progress. Breadth creates exhaustion. Perfectionism is another hidden blocker. Perfectionism convinces you that anything less than ideal is failure. So, you hesitate. You fear mistakes. You delay starting. You revise endlessly. But perfectionism is fear in disguise. Correcting it requires choosing completion over flawlessness. Progress is built from imperfect action, repeated consistently. Perfection is the enemy of movement. Ignoring emotional needs also halts progress. When you neglect your inner world, everything becomes heavier. Your motivation drops. Your focus weakens. Your discipline cracks. Correcting this means acknowledging your feelings, giving yourself rest when needed, and expressing your thoughts honestly. Emotionally healthy people grow faster because their inner world is not working against their goals. Another overlooked behavior that blocks progress is failing to evaluate your day. When you do not reflect on your actions, you repeat the same mistakes unconsciously. Reflection is not criticism. It is course correction. A few minutes of reviewing your day can save you from weeks of repeated errors. Starting your day without preparation also slows you down. When you wake up with no direction, your mind spends valuable energy figuring out what to do. Preparation creates momentum. Correcting this means planning in advance, creating clarity before the day begins so your mind enters with purpose. Correcting unhelpful behaviors is not about punishment. It is about freedom. It is about removing unnecessary weight from your path so you can walk forward with ease. When you identify and correct these behaviors, your days become lighter. Your mind becomes clearer. Your confidence strengthens. You begin to move through life with intention instead of frustration. Progress is not only found in what you add, it is found in what you remove. When you correct the behaviors blocking your growth, you unlock the full potential of your effort, your discipline, and your inner strength. CH Chapter 9. Strengthen choices that align with your values. There comes a point in your evolution when you realize that real progress is not built by chance, pressure, or temporary motivation. It is built through deliberate choices, choices that reflect who you truly are, what you stand for, and what you want your life to mean. When your decisions align with your values, life feels coherent. Your path feels meaningful. Your actions feel stable, no matter what is happening around you. But when your choices contradict your values, something inside you feels unsettled. You may not be able to explain it, but you feel tension, an internal friction that drains clarity and weakens direction. This is the price of living out of alignment. Your mind knows when you are betraying your own principles. Your body knows. Your spirit knows. Strengthening your choices begins with understanding your values, not the values you inherited, not the values society expects of you, not the values people project onto you. Your values, the principles that feel true at the deepest level of your being. Many people never take the time to clarify this. They drift through life following patterns that were never truly theirs. Without values, decisions become reactive. They become emotional. They become inconsistent. With values, decisions become grounded. When you identify your true values, your life begins to make sense. You understand what matters. You understand what you will no longer tolerate. You understand where your energy belongs. Values create inner structure. They shape your direction from the inside out. Once you know your values, the second step is living by them. Not occasionally, not when convenient, but consistently. Anyone can talk about values. Living them is the part that demands courage. If you value honesty, you tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. If you value growth, you choose effort instead of excuses. If you value respect, you treat people with fairness, even when emotions run high. Value-aligned choices require discipline because they do not always match your mood. They match your principles. One of the greatest gifts of value-driven choices is internal peace. When your decisions reflect your beliefs, there is no internal conflict. You no longer carry emotional noise. You no longer argue with yourself about what you should or shouldn't have done. Alignment creates calm. Calm strengthens clarity. Clarity strengthens confidence. Strengthening your choices also requires slowing down. Quick decisions are often emotional decisions, responses triggered by fear, impatience, ego, or habit. When you pause, breathe, and ask yourself a simple question: does this choice support my values or contradict them? You interrupt the automatic pattern. You give yourself the chance to choose consciously instead of react unconsciously. This moment of self-awareness is the difference between repeating old cycles and creating a new direction. Another important step is recognizing the difference between personal values and external expectations. Many people feel torn because they live according to what others want, not what they believe. They sacrifice authenticity for approval. They prioritize acceptance over alignment. But the cost of living through external expectations is internal emptiness. When you make decisions based on pressure instead of principle, you lose connection to yourself. Strengthening choices means choosing the path that honors your values, even if others disagree, even if others do not understand. Values also help create boundaries. When you know what you stand for, you know what you will not absorb. You know which environments weaken you. You know which relationships drain you. Boundaries become natural when they are built on principles instead of emotions. They stop feeling like barriers and start feeling like self-respect. Strengthening value-aligned choices also means letting go of behaviors that contradict your principles. If you value discipline but procrastinate daily, the contradiction creates internal tension. If you value kindness but speak harshly when stressed. The contradiction creates guilt. Letting go is not punishment. It is alignment. It is the process of removing behaviors that no longer reflect who you want to be. Responsibility is another major part of alignment. When your choices reflect your values, you stop blaming circumstances for your outcomes. You recognize your role in shaping your life. This is not pressure. It is power. You stop waiting for ideal conditions. You stop waiting for permission. You begin acting with intention. Responsibility becomes empowering instead of burdensome. Value-aligned choices also improve your relationships. When you show up consistently, people know who you are. They trust you because your behavior does not shift with convenience or emotion. You become reliable. You become clear. You become steady. People respect those who live with integrity, not perfection, but integrity. Values show up in the small choices, not only the big ones. In how you respond when irritated, in how you use your time, in how you speak to yourself, in how you handle responsibility, in how you treat people who can't offer you anything. Your daily decisions shape your character. Consistency builds alignment. Alignment builds identity. Part of strengthening your choices is recognizing when you drift away from your values. No one stays aligned perfectly. Life becomes busy. Emotions interfere. Stress clouds clarity. What matters is awareness. The moment you notice misalignment, you can return. Realignment is a sign of strength, not weakness. It shows that your values are alive, not abstract ideas, but living principles guiding your path. Value-aligned choices also deepen self-trust. Every time you honor your principles, you prove to yourself that you are someone you can rely on. Your decisions become guided by your own standards, not external opinions. This creates inner solidity. When you trust your values, you trust your judgment. When you trust your judgment, you move through life with strength that cannot be easily shaken. Another benefit of value alignment is long-term clarity. Your goals become easier to define because they come from your principles, not from insecurity, envy, or social pressure. You stop pursuing things that do not resonate with your identity. Your path narrows in the best way. You focus on what truly matters. You direct your life consciously instead of drifting unconsciously. When your actions match your values, you feel fulfilled, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer abandoning yourself. You can look at your choices and feel proud, not in an egotistical way, but in a deeply grounded way. Pride born from alignment is the foundation of inner strength. Living according to your values does not happen by accident. It happens through honesty, awareness, courage, and discipline. It happens through moments of choosing principle over emotion, intention over impulse, integrity over convenience. When you strengthen choices that align with your values, you build a life that reflects the best parts of you. You create a path that leads to growth, meaning, and unshakable clarity. You build a foundation that supports every part of your evolution. Chapter 10. Protect habits that keep your growth consistent. There comes a moment in every person's evolution when they realize the truth. Growth is not built by sudden bursts of motivation. It is not built by inspiration that comes and goes like weather. It is not built by occasional discipline. Real growth, the kind that transforms you, stabilizes you, and elevates every area of your life, is built by habits. Quiet, steady, repeated habits. Habits that shape your direction, even when life feels chaotic. Habits that move you forward, even when motivation is absent. But habits are fragile. They can be disrupted by distraction, pressure, emotional discomfort, or even simple neglect. And that is why protecting your habits is just as important as creating them. When you protect your habits, you protect your growth. You protect your identity. You protect the version of yourself you are becoming. The first step in protecting your habits is recognizing their value. Many people underestimate the small routines that keep them grounded. Writing down tasks, focusing for a set period, waking up at the same time, cleaning their environment, reviewing their day, or practicing gratitude. These actions may seem simple, but simplicity does not mean insignificance. These habits form the internal architecture of your life. They give structure to your thoughts. They regulate your emotions. They shape your day with clarity instead of chaos. When you understand how much your habits influence your mind, you stop treating them as optional. You stop skipping them casually. You begin protecting them like something sacred, something that keeps your life aligned. Another essential part of protecting habits is creating an environment that supports them. Your environment has more power than your willpower. A messy space weakens discipline. A distracting room weakens focus. People who drain your energy weaken your consistency. Protecting your habits means shaping your surroundings so they work with you, not against you. Prepare your space. Organize your tools. Limit contact with energy that pulls you off course. When your environment supports your habits support your future. Protecting habits also means reducing the friction between you and the action. The hardest part of a habit is often the first 30 seconds. The mind resists the beginning, not the process. When you make the beginning easy, laying out your materials, setting reminders, simplifying the setup, you remove the biggest barrier. Another part of protecting your habits is refusing to negotiate with excuses. Excuses are soft, comforting, and deeply persuasive. They whisper, "Just skip today. Just this once." But once becomes twice. Twice becomes a pattern. A pattern becomes regression. Protecting your habits means noticing excuses quickly and choosing discipline over comfort. It is not about punishing yourself. It is about staying loyal to your growth. Consistency does not require perfection. Many people abandon their habits at the first mistake. They miss one day and declare the habit broken. But growth is not destroyed by a single skipped day. Growth is destroyed by shame, discouragement, and quitting. When you protect your habits, you allow yourself to miss a day without collapsing. You return immediately. You restore momentum. Resilience, not perfection, is what keeps a habit alive. Life changes, seasons change, your responsibilities shift, your energy fluctuates. Protecting habits requires flexibility. If you try to force the same routine in every season, the routine will break. But if you adjust, shortening the habit, changing the timing, modifying the method, you protect the core of the habit, even when the surface changes. Flexibility preserves consistency. Another barrier to protecting habits is overcommitment. When you overload your life with too many tasks, even good habits get pushed aside. Protecting your habits means making room for them. It means saying no to things that do not contribute to your growth. It means refusing to drown yourself in unnecessary obligations. Simplicity strengthens consistency. Protecting habits also requires emotional awareness. Stress, frustration, and burnout can weaken your discipline. When you ignore your emotional state, habits become harder to maintain. But when you acknowledge your feelings, give yourself space to breathe, or adjust your pace temporarily, your habits survive. Emotional awareness does not weaken discipline. It strengthens sustainability. Accountability is another powerful tool for protecting habits. When you track your progress, or share your goals with someone you trust. You enhance your commitment. Tracking shows you when you are slipping. Accountability pulls you back when motivation dips. The goal is not to depend on others. It is to use every possible tool to support your own consistency. Every time you maintain your habits, you reinforce your identity. Human behavior follows identity. When you see yourself as someone who is disciplined, you behave with discipline. When you see yourself as someone who follows through, you follow through. Protecting your habits protects this identity. You are not just maintaining routines. You are maintaining the self-image that drives your growth. Habits create momentum. Even the smallest daily actions, when repeated, generate movement. Movement generates progress. Progress generates confidence. Confidence generates more discipline. This chain reaction is the engine of personal transformation, and it begins with habits you protect fiercely. Protecting your habits also teaches responsibility. Growth is not accidental. It is intentional. When you protect your habits, you take ownership of your evolution. You stop waiting for inspiration. You stop relying on motivation. You begin relying on structure, your structure. This responsibility does not restrict you. It liberates you. It gives you control over your direction. When your habits are stable, your mind becomes stable. You wake up knowing what matters. You move through your day with clarity. You end your night knowing you invested in your future. This stability decreases anxiety. It reduces confusion. It increases peace. Protecting your habits is not about building a perfect life. It is about building a meaningful life, a stable life, a life where your growth does not collapse every time your emotions shift, a life where your direction stays intact, even when challenges arise. Because growth does not belong to the person who is occasionally motivated. Growth belongs to the person who is consistently committed. When you protect the habits that support your growth, you become unstoppable. Not because you never fall, but because you always return. Chapter 11. Sustain the energy that fuels your long-term growth. There comes a turning point in every journey when you realize that growth is not only about discipline, clarity, habits, or direction. Growth also depends on energy, the internal force that fuels your ability to act, think, decide, and persist. Without energy, even the strongest goals collapse. Without energy, even the clearest plans lose momentum. Without energy, even your best intentions fade into exhaustion. Sustaining your growth requires sustaining your energy, not the short-lived energy created by excitement, pressure, or motivation, but a deeper energy, steady, grounded, and renewable. The kind that strengthens your mind, stabilizes your emotions, and expands your capacity to grow consistently. The first step in sustaining energy is understanding where it comes from. Energy is not just physical. It is mental, emotional, spiritual. Every choice you make either renews your energy or drains it. Every environment you enter either strengthens you or weakens you. Every thought you feed either fuels your direction or steals your clarity. When you understand this, you stop treating energy as something random. You begin treating it as something you can design. One of the most powerful energy drainers is internal chaos. Too many unresolved thoughts, unmade decisions, or chronic overthinking. The mind uses more energy than any other part of your system. When your thoughts are scattered, your energy becomes scattered. Sustaining your energy requires mental organization, knowing your priorities, simplifying your choices, reducing unnecessary decisions, and giving your mind space to breathe. A clear mind is an energized mind. Emotional turbulence is another source of energy loss. When your emotions fluctuate rapidly, stress, frustration, resentment, or fear, you burn energy at an accelerated rate. Your nervous system becomes overactive. Your inner stability weakens. Emotional discipline is not about suppressing feelings. It is about guiding them with awareness. When you recognize your emotions early, when you pause before reacting, when you create space between feeling and action, you protect your energy. You stop letting emotions drain your strength. Another essential part of sustaining energy is protecting your attention. What you pay attention to shapes your energy. Scrolling endlessly, engaging in meaningless conflict, absorbing negativity, or consuming information faster than your mind can process. All of this fractures your energy. Your attention is the gateway to your inner world. If you allow everything to enter, you exhaust your inner system. But when you direct your attention toward what builds you, growth, learning, clarity, purpose, your energy expands. A major factor in sustained growth is environmental alignment. Environments carry frequencies. Some environments calm you. Some environments stimulate you. Some environments drain you before you even realize it. Sustaining your energy means choosing environments that support your strength. Clean spaces, organized surroundings, peaceful atmospheres, people who uplift rather than exhaust. Your environment becomes part of your nervous system. When it is chaotic, you become chaotic. When it is centered, you become centered. Another essential source of energy is physical renewal. A tired body cannot sustain long-term growth. Fatigue weakens discipline. Exhaustion weakens focus. A neglected body becomes a barrier between you and your potential. Sustaining energy means nourishing yourself, not just with sleep and food, but with movement, breath, hydration, sunlight, and stillness. Your body is not separate from your ambition. It is the engine through which your ambition expresses itself. To sustain long-term growth, you must also protect your spiritual energy, the deeper force that gives meaning to your actions. When you live disconnected from your inner purpose, everything becomes heavier. But when your actions align with something meaningful, energy rises naturally. Purpose is fuel, direction is fuel, alignment is fuel. When your life matches your values, your energy becomes self-renewing. Another crucial factor in sustaining energy is releasing what drains you. Some people drain energy. Some habits drain energy. Some thoughts drain energy. Some environments drain energy. Sustaining growth requires selective letting go. Anything that weakens your clarity, peace, or direction becomes too expensive to keep. Letting go is not loss. Letting go is energy conservation. When you release what drains you, you create space for everything that strengthens you. Sustaining energy also requires embracing slower rhythms at times. Growth is not constant acceleration. Even nature grows in cycles. Periods of expansion, periods of rest, periods of integration. Your life follows the same pattern. When you push non-stop, you weaken your internal system. When you rest intelligently, you rebuild capacity. Sustainable growth is rhythmic, not frantic. It honors your cycles. It respects your limits. It expands your strength by protecting your energy. Another powerful element of sustained energy is inner alignment, the coherence between your thoughts, emotions, actions, and values. When these parts of you move in different directions, you experience internal friction. Friction drains energy. But when your inner world aligns, you move through life with less resistance. Decisions become easier. Focus becomes sharper. Discipline becomes natural. Energy flows without interruption. To sustain your energy, you must also practice intentional solitude. Silence resets your mind. Stillness recharges your spirit. Solitude strengthens your intuition. When you spend time alone, not in loneliness, but in reflection, you reconnect to your inner clarity. You release the noise of the world. You hear your own direction more clearly. This internal connection creates energy that external stimulation cannot. Another essential aspect of sustained energy is purposeful connection. Real connection energizes you. People who understand your values, speak with intention, or support your growth amplify your energy. They reinforce your direction. They remind you of your strength. Meaningful connection renews energy because it resonates with your spirit. Protect these connections fiercely. Sustaining long-term growth also means building energetic boundaries. Saying no to conversations that drain you. No to environments that weaken you. No to responsibilities that misalign with your values. Your energy is finite. Protecting it is not selfish. It is survival. It is strategy. It is self-leadership. To sustain energy, you must also measure your energetic return on investment. Every choice has a cost. Every action has a return. Ask yourself regularly, what gives me energy? What drains me? What strengthens me? What weakens me? When you understand this, you stop living accidentally. You begin living with precision. Sustaining your energy is the key to sustaining your growth. Because without energy, discipline weakens, clarity fades, focus collapses, habits break, direction loses momentum. But when your energy is strong, every part of your life becomes stronger. Growth becomes sustainable. Progress becomes steady. Confidence becomes natural. Focus becomes sharp. Your future becomes clearer. Protect your energy. Renew your energy. Direct your energy. Because your energy is not just fuel. It is the foundation of the life you are building. Chapter 12. Cultivate the mindset that supports your future self. There comes a moment in your evolution when you realize that the life you want cannot be created with the mindset you have today. The person you are becoming requires a different way of thinking, perceiving, choosing, and responding. Your future self is shaped long before it arrives, shaped by the thoughts you repeat, the beliefs you carry, and the mindset you strengthen day after day. Your mindset is the silent architect of your life. It determines what you notice, what you ignore, what you chase, and what you tolerate. It shapes your confidence, your discipline, your emotional stability, and your ability to grow through difficulty. If your habits are the structure of your life, your mindset is the foundation beneath it. And if the foundation cracks, everything built on top becomes unstable. The first step in cultivating a mindset that supports your future is recognizing that your current mindset is not fixed. It is flexible. It can be trained. It can be redesigned. The brain rewires itself according to your thoughts. The nervous system adapts according to your patterns. The mind becomes stronger through repetition, just as muscles do. This is not philosophy alone. It is neuroscience. What you think repeatedly, you become. What you rehearse internally, you express externally. A powerful mindset begins with awareness. Awareness of your limitations, your stories, your fears, and your outdated beliefs. Every self-limiting belief is like an old code running in the background of your life. You may not notice it, but it dictates your behavior. I'm not ready. I'm not capable. I always mess things up. These beliefs do not reflect reality. They reflect repetition. They reflect past experiences, not future potential. Cultivating a strong mindset begins with questioning these stories instead of obeying them. Another essential part of mindset cultivation is building inner resilience. Resilience is not the absence of struggle. It is the ability to remain centered amid struggle. It is the ability to bend without breaking, to feel pressure without collapsing, to face difficulty without losing your direction. Resilience grows when you stop running from challenges and start using them. Every challenge you overcome becomes evidence that strengthens your identity. Every difficulty becomes training for your future self. A mindset that supports your future also requires self-direction. Many people let their emotions make decisions for them. They move based on mood, not mission. But emotions are temporary. They fluctuate based on environment, energy, and circumstance. If you let your emotions dictate your actions, your progress will always be unstable. Cultivating a strong mindset means learning to act based on intention rather than impulse. It means honoring your direction, even when discomfort tries to pull you off track. Another powerful part of mindset growth is embracing long-term thinking. The future you want will not appear instantly. The results you desire will not happen overnight. But long-term thinking does not weaken motivation. It strengthens it. When you think long-term, small setbacks stop feeling like failure. Slow progress stops feeling meaningless. Long-term thinking replaces frustration with patience, impatience with strategy, and fear with perspective. A strong mindset also requires the ability to hold two truths at once. I am proud of how far I've come. I still have more room to grow. This duality keeps your ego controlled and your ambition alive. Pride without growth becomes complacency. Growth without pride becomes self-neglect. The balance between the two creates a mindset that moves forward without losing gratitude. Another crucial part of cultivating a powerful mindset is mental cleanliness, removing toxic thoughts, negative assumptions, and emotional clutter. The mind becomes noisy when it is filled with unprocessed worries, and a noisy mind cannot think clearly. Mental clarity requires space. It requires stillness. It requires the ability to observe your thoughts without becoming them. When you stop giving every thought authority, your mind becomes lighter and freer. A future-focused mindset also requires inner leadership. Leadership does not mean controlling others. It means guiding yourself. It means choosing growth even when comfort calls you back. It means choosing clarity over chaos, discipline over distraction, purpose over impulse. When you lead yourself well, every other part of your life becomes easier to navigate. Another element of a strong mindset is the ability to reinterpret adversity. When something difficult happens, most people assume something is wrong. But adversity is not an interruption to your path. It is part of your path. Challenges contain information. They show you your weaknesses. They reveal what still needs strengthening. They push you toward the next stage of your evolution. When you stop resisting adversity and begin learning from it, you transform obstacles into catalysts. A growth-supporting mindset also requires self-respect. Without self-respect, you tolerate environments that drain you, relationships that weaken you, and habits that diminish your potential. Self-respect is not arrogance. It is boundaries. It is the awareness that your time, energy, and direction matter. When you respect yourself, your decisions rise to match that respect. Your standards become higher. Your future becomes stronger. Another essential part of cultivating your mindset is choosing empowering focus. Where your focus goes, your energy follows. If you focus on what is missing, you feel lack. If you focus on what is possible, you feel potential. If you focus on difficulty, you feel defeated. If you focus on solutions, you feel capable. Your focus determines your emotional state, and your emotional state determines your actions. Training your focus is training your future. A mindset that supports your evolution also requires humility, the willingness to learn, to adapt, to change. Humility does not weaken you. It strengthens your growth. When you remain teachable, you remain expandable. When you believe you already know everything, you stop evolving. A powerful mind is an open mind. Cultivating the mindset for your future self also means nurturing inner clarity, knowing who you are, what you value, and what direction you are committed to. When you have clarity, temptation loses its power. Distractions lose their influence. You stop chasing everything and begin choosing what aligns. This is how a strong mindset protects your energy and sharpens your path. Another powerful element is self-compassion. Many people misunderstand self-compassion as weakness, but it is strength. It is the ability to support yourself internally instead of attacking yourself during struggle. When you treat yourself with understanding rather than judgment, you recover faster, adapt faster, grow faster. The strongest people are not the hardest on themselves. They are the most balanced. A future-oriented mindset also requires identity expansion. You must stop identifying with your past. You must stop calling yourself by the names your old life gave you. You are not your mistakes. You are not your past patterns. You are not the limitations you once believed. Your identity must evolve if your future is going to evolve. You become what you identify with. When your identity expands, your possibilities expand. Finally, cultivating a powerful mindset means strengthening internal alignment. Your thoughts, emotions, actions, and values moving in the same direction. Alignment creates momentum. Alignment creates consistency. Alignment creates personal power. When your inner world moves as one, your future becomes inevitable. Your mindset is not just part of your growth. It is the engine of your growth. When your mindset evolves, your life evolves. When your mindset strengthens, your path strengthens. When your mindset expands, your future expands. The future version of you is waiting. Build the mindset that will carry you to them. As you reach the end of this audiobook, pause and recognize something important. You are no longer the same person who pressed play. You didn't just listen. You began revising the inner structure that your life stands on. You questioned old patterns. You chose direction over drift. And that is the beginning of real transformation. Growth doesn't happen in sudden breakthroughs. It happens through the quiet, repeated decisions you make every day. What you focus on, how you respond to resistance, whether you follow your plan or fall back into old rhythms. You now understand a truth most people never realize. Progress is not accidental. It is built through systems, habits, and intentional design. You stand now in the space between knowing and becoming, between understanding the path and choosing to walk it. And the power to cross that threshold belongs entirely to you. If there is one message to carry with you, let it be this: your life changes the moment you take responsibility for its direction. Not from pressure, but from clarity. When you choose structure over chaos, intention over impulse, your brain calms, your nervous system steadies, your identity begins to shift. Structure is not limitation. It is liberation. It frees your mind from confusion. It turns scattered effort into aligned action. It turns hope into measurable progress. But knowledge without integration changes nothing. Integration is when what you learned becomes how you live, when planning becomes natural, when discipline becomes self-respect, when focus becomes your default state. You do not need to change your entire life overnight. You only need one aligned action each day. Small actions compound. Small actions build identity. Small actions, done consistently, create a future you can trust. And when you fall out of rhythm, return without shame. Growth is not perfection. Growth is recalibration. Remember, your energy responds to intention. When your direction is clear, your actions gain power, your opportunities align, and your life begins moving with less internal resistance. This is alignment. This is coherence. This is inner architecture at work. You are not finishing a book. You are stepping into a new identity. A version of you who chooses direction, protects their energy, honors their habits, and leads themselves with clarity. Your future is already shifting in your favor. Now move toward it, one deliberate step at a time.